Alright, so here we are on lesson 14, from ratio tables, equations, and double number line diagrams to plots on the coordinate plane. Alright, so this is kind of like putting it all together in a sense. Alright, and we're on page 16 of your yellow note packet. So we're going to start here with this example. It says Kelly is traveling by train with her soccer team from Yonkers, New York to Morgantown, West Virginia for a tournament. The distance between Yonkers and Morgantown is 400 miles. The total trip will take 8 hours. And then the train schedule is provided below. Alright, exercise 1 says to create a table to show the time it will take Kelly and her team to travel from Yonkers to each town listed in the schedule, assuming that the ratio of the amount of time traveled to the distance traveled is the same for each city. Then extend the table to include the cumulative time it will take to reach each destination on the ride home. Alright, so we know that the ratio, they told us that it will take 8 hours to go 400 miles. So let's put that down first, just so we have it. So before we can fill in our table, I want to find the value of the ratio. Alright, so we would have 8 over 400. And we need to simplify, and we can divide both of these numbers by 8 here. So we would get 1 over 50. So that means, if I scroll down a little bit, that for 1 hour, they go 50 miles. Okay, so that's what we're going to fill in our table with first. So for 1 hour, they go 50 miles. Okay, so now we're going to use that value to fill in the rest of the table. So you can think about it two ways. One way is that we're adding 1 on the hour side, going down. So this would be 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to keep going, 6, 7, 8. Alright, and then when we go across here, we are multiplying by 50 every time. Okay, so 2 times 50 is 100. Then we get 150, 200, 250, 300, 350, and then 400. Alright, but now I want to extend the table down 2 more, so that way we can put in those equations that we did in the last lesson. Alright, so for hours we're going to call it H, and then for miles we're going to call that M. So to go from H to M, we multiply by 50 every time, so this will be 50H. Then to go backwards, we're going to divide by 50, so this would be M over 50. Okay, so we've got our table all filled in now, alright, which is what they asked us to do. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the next page, on page 17. And now it says to create a double number line diagram to show the time it will take Kelly and her team to travel from Yonkers to each town listed. Okay, so this is taking the table that we just made and putting it on a double number line. So we're going to have hours on the top, and we will have miles on the bottom. And we always start with 0 for both of them. And then for hours we said we added 1, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then for miles, we added 50 every time, so we have 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, 300, 350, and then 400. Alright, and it says, using the information from the double number line diagram, how many miles would be traveled in 1 hour? So if we look at 1 hour, we know that they would travel 50 miles. Okay, and the next part says, how do you know? We don't have to write anything down, but we know by looking at the double number line, and also I guess we could put, we calculated the value on the last page. So you could put, we calculated the value of the ratio. Okay, that's what we did on the last page. Alright, I've got one more example here. Now we're talking about plotting points. So the example says dinner service starts once the train is 250 miles away from Yonkers. What is the minimum time the team will have to wait before they can have their meal? Okay, so we're going to fill in our table just like we did originally. So hours, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then for miles, we had 50, 100, 150, 200, and 250. Okay, so now it's asking us about ordered pairs. Alright, so hours, our first number is always going to be the x value. So go ahead and put x up above hours. Miles, the second value is always going to be y. So remember, when we write ordered pairs, we have to use parentheses, and it's x comma y. Alright, and always have to have parentheses there. So if we're going to write our ordered pairs here, for the first one we would have 1 comma 50, then we would have 2 comma 100, then 3 comma 150, then 4 comma 200, and the last one is 5 comma 250. Okay, so those are our ordered pairs. Alright, now we have a plot here, a coordinate plane that we need to plot these points on. So first we need to put labels. Alright, so the first one we're going to label is the x and the y. So remember, x goes left to right, so label this x, and then y goes up and down. So our x value we said was hours, so we're going to put hours down here. And our y value was miles, so we're going to put that off to the side here. Alright. And then up at the top we need to put a title. So looking off of what we did here, we could say time it takes to travel would be a good enough title. So put time takes to travel. Always need to have a title. And now we need to put some numbers on here. So for hours, first of all, we always have to start at 0. And now for hours, we go by 1. So I'm going to skip every other line. So this would be 1, skip 1. This would be 2, skip 1, 3, skip 1, 4, skip another 1, 5. And that's how far we went in our table. And by miles, we went by 50. So I'm going to count every line as 10. So we have 10, 20, 30, 40. This would be 50. 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, and then 110, 20, 30, 40, 50, this is 150, 160, 70, 80, 90, 200, and then 210, 220, 230, 240, and the top one is 250. Alright, so now the last thing we have to do is plot our points. So our first point is at 1 comma 50. So that means we go to the right one, and then we go up to 50, and that's where our first point goes. I'll do these in red. And then our second ordered pair was 2 comma 100. So we're going to go over to 2, up to 100. Our next ordered pair was 3 comma 150. So we go over to 3, up to 150. And then we had 4 200, so we go over to 4, up to 200. And then we had 5 250, so we go over to 5, and up to 250. So now the last thing we need to do is we need to connect our points. I'm going to keep disappearing here. So we're going to connect them all the way up from 0. I'm going to try to make my line as straight as possible. It's hard to draw on here. Alright, and then we put an arrow at the end because this could go on forever. Alright, we could do this pattern on forever and ever. Alright, so you always put an arrow on the end. And then it says, what's the minimum time the team will have to wait before they can have their meal? So it said they'll start dinner when they're 250 miles away. So the minimum amount of time would be 5 hours. So we should answer the question, say, the team would have to wait 5 hours. Alright, so we're going to stop right there and we will do some more practice in class all together.